Welcome to the Titusville Report. My name is Kevin Jeffrey, your moderator, and as always, I'm joined by our Titusville contributor, Christopher Childs. And welcome, Chris. Let's look at Titusville. We have some things to discuss. And so the first thing up is that you have a city attorney position that looks like it's going to finally be hired, and maybe they backed into a good candidate.
I think so. They're going with someone else on the list, and they're making the offer to her. I think her last name's Treasure.
Adrian's
Yeah.
treasurer from out of West Palm Beach, Florida.
Yeah, which is interesting. But I think she's never been like the city attorney, but she's like an assistant city attorney right now. And as far as what they said during the last meeting, the city manager had called her preemptively just to see if she was still interested in case city council wanted to make a decision to go with her. And she had indicated yes, she was still, available and willing to come. So we'll see how that goes, and they're going to communicate with her with salaries and with HR, and then they'll present it to city council.
They offered it to her, or
That's what city council
they
said.
voted on
They
Tuesday
said,
to do
yes,
that, right?
Go ahead and it sounded like Sarah Stokel wanted to entertain looking at a law firm to do the job instead of you going back to the candidate list. But Mayor Connors said, let's just go ahead and go with, he was agreeing with Megan Moscoso and Joe Lynn Nelson, and Herman Cole wasn't there. So he was agreeing with them to let's go ahead and move forward with Treasure and offering her the position. And so Sarah kind of backed off of her law firm.
A law firm would have been more expensive, right?
That's what they were saying. They just weren't sure how much it was, so they couldn't give her
Just
like
open-ended
estimate. Yeah, and some of them were saying, well, you don't get the same kind of interaction. The law firm will assign someone to the city as a client, but they won't always work on everything. They will be like maybe a point person, but there's like what the attorney that we have right now that's filling in right now, he said it's best to have a gatekeeper, someone who works for the city.
Yeah, because he said that he couldn't believe that he was saying that being an attorney.
Yeah, he's like, I know. It's weird saying that. Not that I don't trust law firms, but
maybe there was a moment of honesty.
More of like a logistics thing. It's best if someone who works for the city has that and is a lawyer, has that knowledge about everything that's going on, and has the city's. I mean, obviously, any attorney that's being hired will have the city's best interest, but it's how that works. You're working with multiple clients. You don't have that focus.
Anything to Stokel continually saying that we need somebody to deal with lawsuits? Is she planning on doing something somewhere down the line? Why is she obsessed with these lawsuits?
No, because she doesn't want to sue the state because
because of home rule.
Because they're she doesn't want to sue over the SB 108 or whatever, the Live Local Act, but they were fine suing citizen groups for something that passed. So it's kind of weird that she would want to go with a law firm. I guess you maybe want a law firm that's good at suing citizens. I don't know. But.
Now, people that were there when this lady interviewed are really excited about her. They say that she actually has some background where she's actually worked for citizens, and that could be a great thing.
Yeah, I think so.
In this situation.
Yeah.
Maybe they backed into a much better candidate.
I think so. I think there's other people on the city council who wanted her before some of the others possibly, but they kind of negotiated out to some of the other candidates as kind of a compromise. So this might be a good one. She might be good for the citizens' rights and just rights in general. Hopefully it's a fresh perspective on stuff.
It's just got to be good to get somebody from outside this system in that has no connection to it. That's got to be a plus, right?
I think so. I think it'd be great to have someone that's objective. Yeah, objective. So doesn't have a dog in the fight on either side. That's kind of what we need. We need someone who can come in and objectively look at stuff and say, all right, she's not going to put the city in jeopardy of lawsuits. She can't do that, obviously. But hopefully she can kind of, direct them in a manner that can respect people's rights better. That's what we're hoping.
So that brings us to the budget, and so there's a budget hearing coming up on the 11th, it looks like, in which the city is going to have some feedback from the citizens concerning the budgetary process. What do you see happening? I mean, we've had these hearings before, and again, it's resulted in increases in taxes.
You know, every time I've watched it, I've never seen a time where they said that we're actually going to cut this or change something afterwards. I've seen it where, you know, some of them have on city council have asked, you know, the city manager, hey, did you look at this? You know, just tell us what the process is. They kind of already knew the answer to the question. And we're trying to give the city manager an opportunity to say, yes, we looked at stuff to cut, and we really tried hard to look at this. But nothing, there's never been like a directive from city council saying, let's just cut 10, 15% across the board or anything like, which was, you know, something interesting that happened during the last city council meeting towards the end where Sarah Sokol was talking about Doge, Florida Doge going around. And she was talking about some of the things like, we could probably convince the state, the Doge, that we are raising taxes because we really do have a need. It sounded like she was a little worried about what they might find because she said we're lowering the millage rate, but the taxes are going up a little bit. And that's an interesting...
But the taxes keep going up.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because DeSantis on the other side of the coin is wanting to do away with property taxes altogether. And then that would mean the sales tax goes up double or whatever. So I think from 6% to 12% possibly is what might be needed to cover all the police and fire and regular services that aren't covered under, you know, like your water bill and stuff. So it's interesting that, you know, to see how that might play out where the state is going to totally decimate home rule and take away property taxes from localities and then somehow figure out how to give them money. But
well, I would be all for the property taxes dissipating. I think that in order to yank away the corruption, you got to yank away the money. And that's what's funneling it and it's fueling it. The sales tax and Byron Donaldson talked about this at the Constitution dinner. He's not for it to a certain degree because the sales tax he thinks is going to scare away tourism. But at the end of the day, it allows people, when you have sales tax, to be able to make a choice as to whether they're going to buy this. If you have a home and you have property taxes, you are forced to pay them.
Yeah, you know, I've thought about this too, and I thought, all right, you know, property taxes going away is kind of a good thing. But at the same time, just like you said, it's whoever controls that money. You're shifting the control of where the corruption can happen from local to a state. The state's going to decide what the locality gets. You know, I would assume they probably pass some legislation to say maybe per citizen or whatever you get this much, you know, from the sales tax. But I don't know. And maybe it's your area. If your area collects a sales tax, we might be in a bad situation. So you're just switching what master you have, you know. You're switching your local master. But I don't know that for sure either, but I do know the money was switching to the state would switch control.
From an elderly point of view, and I've said this story before, we knew someone in Portland, Oregon who bought a home in 1967. They paid $100 for their mortgage. By the time they reached their 80s, they were paying $400 in property taxes.
Yeah.
It was unsustainable. And by the way, the county of Multnomah in Oregon did them such a service while they gave them a reverse property tax situation to where they wouldn't charge them any property taxes, but they would take their home when they passed away.
Right, yeah.
How great of the government to do
nice
that.
of them.
I mean, I can just imagine that our founding fathers had that in mind, right?
Yeah.
So it's just property taxes are some of the worst kind of taxes.
They are.
Hopefully we can, there's not going to be any tax increases in Titusville. We just can't have any more.
They're still
I don't know if they understand.
Their rate is to raise it, and
But they're passing it on to the people. How much can the people take?
If you look at one of the graphs that I put together, you'll see the millage rate going down, but you know, property taxes going up. And I did another graph that shows how many houses were added, or how many properties, taxable properties were added. It wasn't, I think it was like 1,000 in the last 5 years or something like that, which is not a lot. And yet still property taxes keep going up.
Going up.
We only had an increase of 1,000 properties, but yet property taxes kept going up. So anyone who owns a house here knows that they're paying more every year.
And not to mention the property taxes or the taxes, but the water rates
Yeah.
are skyrocketing as well.
But they keep
So you
telling
get
us
into
the more houses we add on here, the more development
and
we
you
have
call
in.
that what?
It's a Ponzi scheme.
And that's basically what that is. Why not cut spending?
Yeah, they should. And that's what Doge is going in and saying. Why aren't you cutting? They're being critical of city governments of why they're raising taxes over year over year over year.
Right.
It's not a city that they raise taxes this year and then another 3 years or year.
Titusville has raised taxes 7 out of the last 8 years. We're probably looking at 8 out of the last 9. And that brings us to our new topic,
Yep.
which they give Jason Steele $30,000. Again, they're spending $89,000 last year for a propaganda officer, and then gave the propaganda officer a car. I mean, it's just the spending, and then they're spending on lawyers to sue the citizens. They do not know how to not spend.
And I've talked to some people about this too, about him, and you're like you watch if you watch the city council meeting, you're thinking, all right, well, he knows all these people. He name dropped some senators and said that he had a meeting with the governor's office, and that he knows how to get Titusville money. He can write appropriations, and so I was like, well, that sounds like a good thing. Until you talk to some people, and they're like, there's some nonprofit people who know how to write appropriations. And it's kind of crazy that we've gone all this time and no one at the city knows how to do that. Anyone that's on
And why do you
payroll?
have to pay? First of all, there was no kind of bidding on this.
Yeah.
Right? And so we put it up on our website. He you say, well, there's no correlation to that, but he did contribute $500 to Sarah Stokel's campaign. Now he gets rubber stamped as the lobbyist for the city of Titusville. No matter what is happening, it doesn't look good.
It's weird on that post. They almost acted like you were saying that happened because of that the post was saying that. And so but when you read the post, it said this happened and this happened, but it doesn't say that happened because that happened.
And they don't understand punctuations. There was
Yeah.
a question mark
Yeah.
at the end of
Right.
that statement.
So there's 2 facts stated in that post. If you can say that one of those facts is not right, then let us know.
Okay.
Yes, he donated to Sarah Stokel, and he was appointed as
Yes.
the lobbyist for the city. So those 2 things are true. He said he usually charges more, but since he loves Titusville,
Jason,
he's
thank
giving
you.
us a family discount.
Isn't that something that he, in the kindness of his heart, decided to drop it down to $30,000?
This is the guy who helped Katie out of the county chambers
Right.
during a meeting. He helped escort her out safely with sheriff deputies. So
He's just
a
such
great,
a kind guy.
he's very kind.
I don't know why the city needs a lobbyist myself. Here you're spending again more money that you don't have. At our home, we cannot spend money we do not have. If
Yeah.
you do not have it, you don't have it. Why do we continue to spend money?
I know.
And you're continually having to raise taxes. It
Well, I
doesn't
know.
make any sense.
Yeah, I know. Megan Moscoso had asked during the council meeting, saying, "Well, how can we track like the ROI on this? We're spending this much on you. How much? I want to track." Basically, she's saying, "I want to track how much money we're going to get from the state." And which, once again, we are the ones still paying for this.
But even
Free money doesn't come from the
Right,
state
it's
out of
just not
nowhere.
falling from the-
It's from taxpayers.
We need fiscally sound people on the city council who actually have to pay taxes, who actually have homes, who actually have to have a budget, who knows how to stop spending.
Yeah.
This spending, and so the consequence of it is that the more you spend, you complain about corruption, don't complain about it if you're for spending, because that's where it comes from.
Yeah. I would love to see city council give a directive saying, I want to see cuts. We want to see cuts, X amount, 5%, 10% across the board, one in every department, this much in every department, in each department. That's what we want to see. That's what I would love to see, because that forces, the leadership in the city to look at everything with a very critical eye and say, nope, we don't really need that. Let's cut
Should
it
we
out.
have a cap? I mean, should Titusville have a cap on spending?
Well, Yes, I think so.
Because it doesn't have one, right?
No,
That I
no.
know of currently, and so this is why
The only cap is how much legally they can raise property taxes. That's the only
but
cap,
there's no cap
for
on
real.
spending
Not
for the city.
overall. Or no, no,
Right.
no. Just how much they can tax us.
They need one
Yeah.
because I mean you just see the spending and it's just for stuff that is
But
just
yeah.
unbelievable.
And but like I said, the cap is done by the state. Once again, it's not like they said, "Hey, we should cap ourselves," you
Yeah,
know?
well, no, they're not going to ever do that. And it's like telling the fox to cap how many chickens he's going to take out of the chicken coop. It's not going to ever happen. And so, Titusville Sustainability Plan, and I wanted to bring that up. And I know that a lot of people are not familiar with this, but you will be, believe you me, when you understand what's coming. So now in 2022, Titusville, the city council, implemented the sustainability plan. Now, this is not unusual because a lot of the cities have done this. But what I think is not known is a lot of the cities are not understanding that this sustainability plan that they passed is the United Nations Sustainability Plan. Now, I was at a Titusville City Council meeting last year, and the sustainability director actually said this out loud. So I looked around the room, and no one reacted to it. A
Yeah.
few people.
Yeah.
And so here, the results of it is that the comprehensive plan has been changed to effect this sustainability commitment. Now, I'm going to read you from the City of Titusville's website, and this is Titusville's commitment to sustainability. The City of Titusville has recently reaffirmed its commitment to sustainability by investing in hybrid vehicles to replace its older fleet vehicles. And then on down it says the new hybrid Ford F-150 fleet is powered by two distinct modes of power, but an internal combustion engine and an electric motor for propulsion, which is proven to reduce the need for gasoline, thus reducing greenhouse gas emissions along with improved fuel efficiency, resulting in lower air pollution. And a lot of the sustainability, and we're going to be putting more of this online, now has been implemented within the comprehensive plan. Part of that you will read, and it's online, is they're trying to limit how many vehicles can be driven. That's one of the big part of the sustainability plan, and it goes on and on and on. And Chris, this is going to put more restrictions on the citizens of Titusville than Titusville residents probably even understand.
Yeah, I think people might not understand what the comp plan is sometimes too. And the comp plan is a goals document, so it's what it kind of guides the staff of where the city wants to go. So they when they come up with something to like buy a vehicle, they'll go off of this. Now that still has to come before city council for things over a certain amount of money, basically like cars and stuff. So they'll still go in front of the city council, and then they look at the comp plan. Well, yeah, you followed the comp plan, but I think like when this was passed, I was on P&Z. I was an alternate when they first were changing the comp plan with this sustainability stuff, and you hear it, you
Was
see
this
a
voted on?
presentation. Yeah, it was voted on by P&Z, and city council had to approve it, and then actually the comp plan goes to the state. And the state has to sign off on your comp plan and make sure it's all within state statutes.
So
and
all
stuff.
of the things that it's read, if you go on and you see the comp plan now,
Yeah,
this was all talked about and voted on.
voted on.
And you were sitting in some of these meetings.
Yeah, I was there.
And your thoughts were?
When I was looking at it, I thought this was a little weird for Titusville to be talking about some of these things. So, and some of the goals that they were talking about, and I thought. Some of them I didn't even think pertained to our city, but we had a whole presentation by someone that was hired by the city to do it. I think she'd since left, and there's another person doing that job now. But I was a little taken aback, and I was an alternate at the time, so I couldn't vote on anything unless there was someone gone. And I don't remember if I was actually, sitting and voting on this or not. I can't remember, but. I thought it was a little strange. We were adding that, and I asked at some point. I'm not sure if it was on camera, but I asked why we were adding a sustainability plan to our comp plan, and I thought it was. I think someone said it was a requirement from the state, but I don't remember. But I don't know. All around, I thought it was a little strange.
It's interesting, and more information will continue to report to you the implications of this. And there are a lot of implications that I don't know that the citizens are aware of in terms of some of the restrictions that are going to be coming down the pike as a result of this, and we'll continue to bring it up.
And they could still change it, but they would have to go through this whole process of changing it, the comp plan. It's still like a goals of what they can go against the goals to
Were
a
there
certain
public
extent.
hearings when the comp plan was changed?
Yeah, there's required by law to have.
And so no one chimed in on it.
No, I don't remember anyone saying anything about it, even people on PNZ.
Interesting. We'll have more about that coming forward because it's going to be very, very interesting when you look at the comprehensive plan as it now stands. And some of the things that are in there, maybe not, your jaws may drop. But we'll be talking about that more in the future. And that brings us to our congratulations to the Community Service Award winner. And it was given to Mrs. Jessie Kirk, who is no longer with us. And she received that award. Tell us about that process and how that happened.
Well, I know people nominate people. They fill out a form and submit that to the city. And then there's a committee that goes over all of them. And then they name a winner. And Jessie was definitely a good person in the community. I talked to her a couple times, and even though I was running against someone that she had supported, she still treated me like a friend, and was very, very kind person. Just met her, didn't even know. I didn't know who she was when I was talking to her, but she definitely deserved the award, and it was kind of tragic of how she passed. So it was good that I'm glad that they recognized her. So,
now, they had several nominations, right? Now, how does this happen? They have a committee, right?
Yeah, they have a committee that goes over and then they vote on who they're going to recognize.
Do they recognize, the top 5?
They do the winner and then the top 5 nominees.
And some of the other nominees were?
So the list is in alphabetical order by last name: Stell Bailey, Will Davis, Adam Kohler, Pastor Royce Scooter Morrison, and Dorothy Peters.
So what are the qualifications for it?
They have to be active in the community and have to have done some sort of community service stuff in the community. I think that's a couple of the requirements for that. So when you submit the form, you have to say like why this person deserves the award and stuff. So that's the list I got from the city. I got that list from the city. And so these people should be, according to how they do the Community Service Award, they'll be invited to the banquet that they have every year. I believe it's in October. I get invited to it because I'm on PNZ. So they have a thank you banquet basically every year.
For all of the nominees?
For all the board, and then the top 5 nominees get invited to that banquet. So they should, and then they're recognized, during that banquet, which is not open to the public. It's just people who serve on boards and committees for the city, and then the Community Service Award nominees. Excellent.
And so the next thing that we wanted to look at was to PNZ. Now, you guys have met for a couple of months. Why not?
Yeah. All I was told is we don't have anything on the agenda.
It's in PNZ, for those who may not know, is planning and zoning, and you guys do what?
We go over conditional use permits. If someone wants to do a certain use in a certain area that isn't permitted by the zoning statutes, then ordinances, then they come to the planning and zoning, and then we make a recommendation to city council. We don't ever make a decision. We're just a recommending body. Mm-hmm. So we make a recommendation to city council whether or not to change that. Sometimes it's like zoning. If you want to you want to go from having one house on an acre to having 2 houses on an acre or something like that. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But then you go to before PNZ and then make a recommendation to city council, and then city council votes on whether and not to do it. So that's how PNZ
So there's
works.
been nothing on the agenda at all? There's no.
Which is weird because I've been on since early 21. And we've missed meetings here and there, maybe like one meeting a year sometimes gets canceled. So this year it's been, I think, was it 3 or 4 in a row now? And now we're having one on Wednesday. So,
well, maybe Titusville is getting rid of a lot of their ordinances and scaling back and making it easier for people
seems like
to do
staff's
business.
approving a bunch of other stuff, I guess. I guess
Maybe
we made a lot of changes. We were like, maybe we should make this easier. So
that's what's
we
happening.
made it too easy for ourselves.
And last but not least, Chief Lau, we still haven't gotten our videos that we requested here at Brevard News. For the body cam videos, if you're listening, we would love to have those body cam videos. And we continue to talk about this, but it's not because we want to continue to talk about it. It's you've dragged this story out longer than it really needed to be. But as long as you drag it out, we'll go with you on it. And we're still waiting for that video. Do you think that's going to ever happen?
No, they put out a bunch of other videos of them doing great things, which is cool to see. I'm glad
Right.
that they're doing some good community service stuff. But let's release the videos some people really care about. The videos from other officers that were at the shooting on February 7th of this year, 2025. So let's get all the videos and not just like the ones that you handpicked,
Right,
for us
and
to see.
also we put in information that we were trying to get information on the December shooting, which we still haven't gotten that information. But help us out, Chief, if you can. We'd love it, and then we can put this to bed, and that would be a great thing for the citizens of Titusville. That's it. Chris, thanks for joining us on this section, this week's section of the Titusville Report, and thank you for being with us, because without you, Titusville would not have the reports that we have. Thank you. My name is Kevin Jeffrey, your moderator, and again, I'm joined by Christopher Childs. We'll see you next week.